Welcome to another episode of the Modern Musician Survival Guide podcast. Today I'm excited to be talking with a colleague who is not only an accomplished artist, a singer more precisely, but is also doing something that I find very interesting, something that's not kind of trivial at all for musicians, which is conflict resolution and mediator in conflict situations, which I'm very curious about. So, without further ado, welcome Martha Harreiter to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
So, Marta, I have been following your Konsenskultur, which is what you founded, on Instagram for some time and have been seeing some of your clips and some of your reels about conflict resolution and so on. But before we dive into that, I would like to know more about how did you become a musician? Do you remember the moment where you said, I want to be a singer? Or is it something that just happened?
Well, music has always been a big part of my life since I can remember. So I would say I was a kid that experienced a lot of luxury in the sense that I could decide on what things I wanted to pursue, if I liked sports or music activities more. And my mother would go with me to almost everything that you could experience what a kid could do, I could try. So and I always loved music the most. So I attended classes in the first choir with 4 or 5 years old, and then I was always singing. So it was for me completely normal that you would be singing. So I always sang at home. I have no brothers and sisters, so I communicated with my mom, but of course, not all the time she was available. So I was just talking to myself and singing, basically. The professional career, actually, I started with piano also then at the age of 9, and I was playing the piano, I would say, quite well. So I was also thinking about becoming a pianist maybe one day. And then I decided about the age of 18 that I wanted to go deeper into singing. And I love the classical music. I loved Mozart. I loved the Lied. And that was when that started.
Yeah, because I was about to ask you, normally kids would go, I'm fresh from 2 days of open doors and presentations at the music school, so the kids are trying all of those instruments out and so on. But the voice is kind of the instrument that we are born with and that we carry, right?
Yes.
So in a sense, it's our first instrument. Then of course it depends whether you want to express yourself with that instrument or through another one. And I mean, it makes, I think, perfect sense. You said you love Mozart, you love Lied. You are from Vienna, I believe. No, you're from.
I was born
You're Austrian.
I was born in Austria, in Graz, which is in Styria, but I moved then to Salzburg with my parents. So yeah, I had a lot of classical music around me and also a lot of Mozart, of course, in Salzburg.
Yeah, it's kind of like not to go with cliches, but Salzburg, Mozart, it's kind of a match made in heaven in a way.
Yes, I also love the Mozart Kugel, so you can go on with cliches.
Cool. So later you went on and pursued a professional career, something that you are still active in. So you did a concert recently also in Sweden. And kind of to connect that part of your life to what you created with Konsenskultur, how did it come by that, you thought, I want to go into conflict resolution and to be the person that helps de-escalate and settle potentially fiery situations?
Probably several parts. So first, I think I'm a peacemaker from personality type. So I like to observe people when they speak, how they interact. I'm just very sensitive to that. And it happened that I also studied law when I studied singing. So a bit later, I started that when I had a time of vocal issues, so I wasn't allowed to sing for some time, and I decided to study law because there you don't have to sing, and you don't have to speak much, you just study. Yeah, of course, in law there's a lot of conflicts you face and how to resolve them. And I got to know the concept of mediation and alternative conflict resolution, which is more based on the idea that the people themselves should have an impact on how the solution looks like, if they are at least able to speak to each other. And it took a while, you have an idea and then life goes on, and you can't pursue everything at once. But in the years of 2020 and the following years with COVID, where I really didn't have much chance to sing so much in public, then I decided I will do that now, and I did a 2-year program. And yeah, and of course, musicians, I know a lot of people in the music industry. I've been myself there for now 10 years, so you see a lot, and you experience a lot of situations, very good situations, also with perfect conflict resolution, and then also very, very difficult ones. And actually, colleagues of mine, they told me, wow, conflict resolution, will you go and do that specifically also for musicians? And they told me all their stories. And so I got even more into that world. And yeah, so that's now also one focus of my work there. And I enjoy it a lot because yeah, I'm very fond of musicians' activities in the music industry, and I want them to work the best. So yeah.
Yeah, I find it also, very fascinating this fact that, of course, you have the corporate world, we have a lot of departments, you have HR that solves, well, kind of solve problems, not really, but they solve problems more on the side of the employer rather than on the employee in a way. At least that's my understanding. I've never worked in a corporate environment. Um, but I could imagine that as musicians, and it seems kind of obvious, but it's not, that there can be tensions and conflicts among even colleagues. For example, take an orchestra. You have at least 50 people with different personalities. It's only normal that some conflicts might arise there. Also, if you think about chamber ensembles, string quartets, how many times we've heard of situations that they travel separately after the concert, they just played perfectly on stage, and then they just sit in the four corners of a restaurant not talking to one another. um, yeah, so problem resolution is definitely a part that actually could be and should be taught also to musicians in order how to collaborate better. um, Also, because in my experience, I know musicians, and I've known musicians who are very strongly opinionated, especially when it comes to their own vision of how music should be, and are not willing to compromise on anything. But let's go into that. How do you see? Because I'm very curious to ask you about cases, real life cases, but maybe we will get there at some point in the conversation. Um, what would you say, for example, let's say the listeners who are hearing this episode, who are feeling that they are having some sort of conflict or issue with another colleague or with another person? What would be kind of your, like, yeah, let's say first step towards resolving this conflict?
So yeah, let me maybe just go back. You said a few very, very good things. So first, conflicts are normal. So they arise in every environment, private, professional, big scale, smaller things. Still, they're unavoidable. So if you avoid them, then you just cover them up, but they will still be there. It's also important to have a balance and to be equally important in a collaboration. So you have to have your opinion. Otherwise, I mean, if one is suppressed and it's not there, it's also not in the favor of the musical result or artistic result normally. So first, they're very, very normal. Then secondly, yes, it should be taught at schools, at universities. It should not be avoided as much as it still is, also with very still rather strict forms of teaching in several universities where it's not encouraged to be as straightforward with your own opinions in classes.
Okay.
But there you would learn how to formulate that, how to do it on a professional level. And yes, you can be a professional of a different opinion and discuss that, and it's not a personal insult. So we still mix that too often. Plus, it's more difficult if you identify very much with what you do on a personal level. So I would say, yes, as a musician, you identify most of the time, and you shouldn't. You have to somehow with what you do, and your professional life is having a big influence on your private life, more so as in other professions. Not necessarily there. It's in the, let's say you have a job in the corporate world, you could be as invested, but you don't have to be. So yes,
True.
it happens that it gets very personal very easily in that case. And I would say the first step, whatever you experience or you feel a tension or you feel that it's tense or I would like to finish that concert and then go have dinner on my own, or I don't know, yeah, what the impulse would be. But the first thing for me is I encourage everyone. So I also do teachings at universities or in master classes, courses, because I think it's so important. You have to know it's normal. It's not something that's to be overlooked. It's important to look at it, but it's not a dangerous thing or something you would feel very uncomfortable about. You should make peace with the fact it will always happen. It's not particularly a bad thing and not hide away, also not rush and try to cover it up with a solution, which is then cannot be a solution that quick, but really to sit with that a bit, to accept the fact it will always be different opinions. It's fine. Also, I mean, of course, I myself, you can also not train not to have conflicts. It's not, that's not possible. You can just train how to interact with people, how to regulate your emotions, your nervous system, how to know it's not a personal insult. You're not in danger. Your personal worth is still intact. It's the same as before. But that would be really the very, very first step. So the very first step I'd always say is with yourself, within yourself, and to accept it's just a conflict, and there's ways to deal with it and to resolve it.
Wow. So when you were talking, I had so many situations run through my head, situations in which maybe there was, it's also about this thing, like in our society, we are kind of taught that we need to be easygoing, we need to be non-conflictual people, which, doesn't mean that you need to go and look for conflicts or create them simply because you're bored. But, yeah, there's something about being taught to be a collaborative person, to be a person that, is easy to work with, who doesn't create problems, and so on and so on. And what you said, it hit me quite hard in the sense that conflicts will be there. It's a normal part of being a human being, because we're all different and we have our own opinions, our own ideas. Just the fact that, knowing there can be a conflict and it's normal already takes away lots of pressure of the situation, I believe. Also because if, in a society where conflict is seen as something quote unquote bad, because we put a moral judgment on that, right?
Yes.
And you feel a conflict, and then you kind of feel also ashamed because you are bursting, with this thing that you are clashing with another person. And getting that thing to sit inside without resolving it might eventually blow up and become this huge thing that could have been resolved just by talking and finding a solution together. So
Just one more point. It's also oftentimes it's also about control. So also in the corporate world, no one would say, well, yeah, we have perfect conflict resolution in our company. As you said, it's connected with shame. You try not to disclose those things. It's rather intimate. You fear that from the outside you will be judged as you don't have the situation under control, or in that musical settings also very often that you doubt if you should really work with someone because you face there's a conflict now. And that's a question for me, if it's that beneficial to jump from there's a conflict to probably I might not work with that person in the future, or rather to not to be happy about it, but to acknowledge that there's a chance now to grow and probably to find someone together and to be also grateful for other opinions. And if you get to a professional level where you can also speak on about opinions on a professional level, then it could really bring benefit more than it takes the work, and it's uncomfortable sometimes, you know.
And one other point that I really love about what you're saying is not taking things personally. Also, because again, we're so much into, even though I knew that the situation, it's like maybe only the rehearsal that gets heated up and everything, and afterwards it will be fine. Sometimes I would still go out of that rehearsal feeling, not good about myself and about the situation, and maybe about how I reacted and so on. And it's again this thing about, okay, the conflict was kind of growing there, but instead of de-escalating it, I kind of suppressed it and held it inside, and that actually made me feel worse rather than say, okay, I avoided a conflict. Because again, avoiding is not the solution many
Yeah,
times.
many times not. I mean, I don't want to create an image that you always have to be able to communicate very professionally, to be very self-aware about your emotions. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if someone or you feel someone insults you, hurts you, is criticizing what you do, and you really put in a lot of effort and work, and it will make you feel bad. If not, then that would be also personality thing to look at. It's normal. It's completely fine. And it's also personality thing if you go out with that and be upfront and say, hey, that was really not okay because I do it that way. And if you come with that again, then you will see, I will leave. Or not everyone is like that. So it can help, but if there's two people and one is very, very upfront and the other one is rather taking it inside and being frustrated inside, I could also not say, well, let's just communicate openly. And at the very first moment, someone takes just more time. And I use that metaphor often. You have to go with the one that's slower. I mean, I am from Austria. We have a lot of mountains, and I like hiking and walking. And there you learn this basic rule. You always have to adjust the tempo to the person who's the slowest. You cannot just, leave the other one behind. If they can't, they can't. So you have to teach yourself also patience. Sometimes someone will need their time until they can speak up. It's their responsibility to learn that, but it's not as easy for everyone. It's not the same, you know. It's also a
Yeah,
cultural
absolutely.
thing how you learn it, not just in music, but in your life in general, if that's more appreciated or not. But yeah, we have to be very sensitive. Everyone is so different. There's not like I could not give like three tips and then every conflict's resolved. Yeah.
That would be amazing, but unfortunately, it's not realistic.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Okay. And have you seen some, let's say, types of kind of personalities in conflicts? Because I would imagine it's kind of like the avoidant type, maybe
Yeah.
the confrontational type, that just, at the minimum trigger just goes into it. Yeah, are there any kind of like types of personalities that you noticed in your work when it comes to conflicts?
Yes, definitely it's like the prototype. What you mentioned, the one that's very direct and can be offensive. For them, it's clear, you have to everything that comes to your mind, and if you feel offended, then you put it out, and the other person should deal with it. And then, of course, lots of people, the majority, I would say, is avoidant. The person who is very loud, of course, you can very clearly identify them. And the avoidance, you don't even know. Do they have a conflict? Do they feel offended? How are they doing? It takes more time. But the majority of people I worked with, also if I do like workshops where I show these types and then I give them time and exercises to find out if they know what's their type. The majority of people, they're avoidance or mixed types, but also an avoidant component. And I think that's because of that, what you said, easygoing mentality, also still the industry. So I've, of course, with corporate world and other professions, I recognize that it's a very difficult field to work in, and you try to work very hard, artistically, professionally, technically, but also building your network and getting a lot of contact and being invited again to something where you've been. And that encourages to be that easygoing. You know, someone else would be more easygoing than otherwise, and then you don't dare to. So probably it's also learned behavior. Um, but then,
Yeah, I
yeah,
could
it shows
imagine.
very often.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt you. No, I could definitely imagine, like being the type of musician or artist that is there and said, okay, I want to seem like I'm easy to work with, so I don't want to create any conflict situations, even though maybe for some reason, I don't know, the conductor of the orchestra had a bad day and it outlashes at you. But since you are kind of the invited guest artist there, you're kind of okay, I have to take it because I'm a guest. I don't want to seem like in a conflict and so on, instead of maybe, not starting a shouting contest in front of everyone, but maybe at the end just go to the conductor and say, hey, I'm sorry that happened, but look, that made me feel uncomfortable or something. Even though it's easy to say that, I don't know if I would do that. Again, maybe because I don't want to seem like this difficult person to work with, which maybe in another field would be completely okay, just to go up to your boss and say, that remark you made me feel uncomfortable or something like that.
I think it would be easier to do in other fields of work, but still people very often don't do it because they still feel the same, what you said. Probably I wouldn't do it even if I felt that I could and it would not have any negative consequences. So that's why really we should train also how to communicate our needs very clearly and without feeling guilty for it or without having the fear it has very bad consequences for us on other levels. So yeah, we try to avoid. I mean, what you said, you work with someone and you feel, okay, I'm a guest here, but I sense maybe he's having a very bad day. I mean, this maybe and thinking about what might cause someone to act the way they do. It's never a bad thing, but of course you also very often you will not know the motives. But you still feel it. You still know there's something. You feel uncomfortable. It's not nice. So maybe also you have the chance to speak to them afterwards, and then it's the question: how do you put that in words? What's in your mind or what you feel? Or it's always difficult to speak about music anyway. So you should train that in situations where you don't feel it could have such a negative impact. With friends, with an ensemble, with people you know very well. Also in private settings, you can really train that where you have trust in the people, where you know they will not abandon you if you just say, okay, let me tell you, this is how I felt. Do you have a minute? Can you just have a minute for me? This is how it made me feel, and I would need to feel better or more secure or whatever in that situation to give my best. I would need a bit more of this and that. And do you think maybe there's a chance we could make that work? I just wanted to let you know, on that kind of level, but you have to have the
Sure.
words how to approach, and because they will not invite you and say, how did you feel, how has it
Yeah,
been, is there
it's
anything
not the
else?
role to be your therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
True,
Is there
true.
anything else you would need from me? Yeah.
But how does one train that? Because you said, okay, the setting, the kind of safe environment where we
Mm.
feel safe to try that out. But I can also already see and imagine, because I've met some people that are like that, and I can imagine all the listeners, you included, that kind of behind the guise of I'm an honest person, I need to tell you this,
Mm.
might dump on you something that has nothing to do with a conflictual situation. They just think that maybe they even judge you a bit on something and say, well, listen, you should try to do this because it makes me feel like this and this and this. I can see why it would be important to be very well aware and educated on what is a conflictual situation and what is a situation in which uh, let's call them a frenemy comes to you and implicitly kind of judges you, saying that you should change because they believe you're not, let's say, at your best, because those kinds of people always put kind of your interest in front of you, even though there can be some hidden personal benefit behind it. I don't know if I was clear with my question.
Yeah, so definitely before you can even reach a conflict, you have to have your own position. So what we don't do in mediation, I do not work with the people individually besides conflict, let's say. But still there's everybody comes with their own story and their own amount of self-respect they have, and also how much they trust themselves and trust the work and the quality of work they do. And I would also say, when it comes to that, what you mentioned, you should change because then you will be better, so, like covered covered up with something like that. Uh, you have to have people you trust, so especially in music, because you need feedback. So I really believe in that concept of having teachers, friends, colleagues, like a very small circle, but the circle of people you really trust. And to be very clear that you only take opinions from them on how well you work, what you could get better at. And for all the others, you just say thank you. And, it's 1 year in, 1 year out. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to say, I don't take tips from you, but, you just don't do. And then you can try to find that message that's probably hidden behind that. Or it, of course, you have to be very intelligent, and you have to learn to read people. That's a different thing. But for a conflict, I mean, also, I would not encourage people to go to that conflict definition too easily, because in fact, conflict is already something substantial. It's not just being of two different opinions for once. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
conflict already. It's not that loaded. Conflict there, they can reach very dangerous levels, but just to be of different opinion. That's not, that's even more of a
Okay. Mm-hmm.
normality. It's it's fine, it's completely fine. Yeah.
True. I think that's something that I should have started with. What, in your opinion, is the definition of a conflict?
So there's lots of definitions of what is a conflict, of course, and I think the common factor of all those definitions is that it's two people or more people, but at least two people being of different opinions on something over a longer period of time, or in a way that's making them and their relationship already uncomfortable and difficult. So it's
Okay.
not just fighting for once and then it's done and it's fine, but it's already a system, So if those
Mm-hmm.
people come together, either professionally or personally, there is on some level something that's building up. There's like a line in their interactions, and it always comes back to that. They don't agree. It's more than they just don't agree. They're not having a disagreement. So it's probably, if you collect some disagreements over time, can also be in a short period of time, but it has to be more than just one disagreement. It has to be something that you can identify, it always comes back to that topic, to that, you can't get further.
Yeah, I think it's also like maybe it's the effects of social media. I don't want to be the one to blame everything on social media and technology because I don't. It's about the people who use it. But in some ways, even if I don't know somebody puts something out, let's say me as a musician, I put a video out and somebody comments on it, and they comment on it in a bit maybe with a slightly negative connotation, but they just expressed their opinion, right? I can imagine myself already feeling kind of in conflict with that person because,
Yeah.
but it's not about that person, it's about that comment, because I disagree with it in a way. And I believe it's very important what you said because it's not a fight, it's not a one single isolated moment because those can happen even more often than conflicts, but already kind of putting it into the corner of, okay, this is an open conflict that needs to be dealt with, has its own dangers in a way, because if we attribute everything to conflict, then even like a small disagreement can become a collaboration, relationship ending event in a way.
Yes, I mean that really should not happen. Of course, it can be also the other way around, so that you're already having a conflict with someone, and then they put out another negative comment on your post or reel or video, whatever. So it's
That's
hard.
throwing gasoline on the fire. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. So as a reader of the comment, I couldn't tell if you have a conflict with that person or not. But I mean, social media, that's a completely another world. Also, how resilient you have to be with dealing with negative comments, or if you should deal with them, what you should probably delete, how it affects your profile and everything. But that's not in. It's connected in that sense that you learn how it makes you feel if something is uncomfortable, it's offending you, how you can react, how scenarios, how you could react, how you won't react, but you could. No, for that you could use it for your own benefit to train, but those are not conflicts by themselves.
and on the website of Consens Kultur, I saw that you are moderating, which I would imagine is kind of making people aware, but I might completely be wrong about it, aware of how to resolve a conflict, and you're also mediating. And I would imagine that you are kind of in between the two parties and trying to find a solution to the conflict. Am I right in understanding that, or is there a difference?
Yes, I mean, somehow you could also say that moderating a conflict, it would be mediation light, or what you said, to resolving the conflict or potentially conflictuous situation earlier, so you avoid the need of having a mediation. So mediation is a very clear process where you have to undergo several steps. It can also be that still there's already court procedures, and then with the titles, if you contact a certified mediator, then the proceedings take that into account, and then you can switch from court to a certified mediator and resolve the conflict with them, and then get a title for the court proceedings to finish that off. So that's already much more formal also. And the moderating situation is also very often in team structures, just in companies where you have people, you have restructurings, you have people working together with new responsibilities or less people with the same duties to do. And then you feel that the potential is there, but also you see that it's difficult. There's several things that are just difficult and they don't work out well, and people are not happy with it. And you just lose a lot of time and energy, motivation, and resources of the people that just go to this unresolved topics. And if you don't invest a bit of time for moderating that topics, then in the end it's a win-win, because then you have better work environment. People are happy going to work, and they can use their time and energy for the joint success and what they do, and navigating how to work in that strange environment.
And in your own professional life as
Mm.
an active singer, how did these skills that you've learned through your work as a mediator and a conflict resolution expert, how do you feel that change kind of your way of seeing the artistic work, living it, and tackling potential conflicts?
I certainly also learned. I mean, I learned from my education, but I also learned from cases and I learned from other people a lot. So I would say I'm probably not even self-aware of everything that I learned through that. But I tend to communicate more openly, and of course, I feel that I have the resources to speak up and also to not just to observe situations, but also to name what I see and to be more open and also more realistic in the sense that nobody can be a perfect communicator in situations where there is self involved. So I cannot mediate my own conflicts. I cannot be standing outside. I will have my own emotions. I will feel offended myself. I can have a very bad day, as we all do, and that's very human and normal. And I'm not that strict with myself anymore in that sense. That's it.
And besides the mindset shift that conflicts will happen, it's not a question of if,
Hmm.
it's when they will happen. For the listeners, how can they learn to better tackle conflict situations, in your opinion? I'm sure not everyone has the time to go through a law degree to learn about that or to, do special courses. But let's say that, okay, you see this ongoing, tight, tensed situation going. And to be better equipped to deal with those situations, where do you think can people kind of, learn the skills of tackling that?
I mean, there's literature, you can go and read books. What I would recommend also is to speak about if you had conflict situations earlier, not in a way to blame anyone, but to speak with your colleagues just about the topic. So I learned that when I said, "Oh, I do this, I was doing mediation and conflict resolution," then people started talking. And when I was in groups, they also shared their stories, and they could learn so much. Also in like workshops, they learn so much from the stories of the other people, and they then connect their experience with their own experience, and they understand more. So I would say not being so closed on that
Mm-hmm.
topic and just dealing with it on your own, but also being open and speaking about that with your friends and colleagues, and not necessarily asking them for specific advice, but just sharing your stories can help very much. And also, I mean, you can follow my Instagram channel, of course, and there's other
Absolutely, and we
channels.
will talk about that, yes.
And there is other channels and blogs where you can read about, um, just some guidelines to follow. And then you can probably try some of that in your next situation where you feel you could, need it and benefit from it. And it's rather simple. So I also try to keep it rather simple. Just trying to understand that first, it's normal, conflicts are normal, your own emotions will be there. It takes time to calm down and to cool off and to get back to a professional tone, and then to really collect the topics and to be open for what's the other person's problem and not to judging them for what they said only. And but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
opening up for a dialogue which seems to be not going anywhere once, just to collecting the problems or all their ideas, and it can seem that it gets even bigger. So some people also avoid that because they fear that if they open up and they allow
Mm.
the other person to share, that then even more comes to the table. But in a sense, that's a good thing because then it's there and it's not hidden somewhere, and then you can try to work on solutions. And also, I feel it's very, very helpful if you have someone from your group, your respected friend of both sides, who can just help and sit with you have a coffee and go for a walk and invite them also to listen to you, and maybe they have a fresh idea. You don't need, I mean, that's now against my own profession, but you don't always need someone professional at first to help you. It can be, yeah, other people just with an outside view that can also support you.
I remember I was listening to a podcast episode by Simon Sinek,
Hmm.
and he was talking about his way of giving feedback in the company.
Hmm.
And in a way, like everyone gives kind of feedback, you, and you listen. You don't justify, you don't reply to the feedback. You just listen, you say thank you, and then you evaluate. Is there something true to that? Is it something that I could learn from that? If yes, you take the points. If not, you just leave it aside. But you don't kind of start clarifying, justifying, say why you did that, or in that kind of mindset of how dare you judge my work or something like that. you know, have you had situations in which you said, okay, we tried things. Probably it's not this conflict will not get resolved and it's better to kind of go your own separate ways, which is definitely not the outcome that we want, but maybe sometimes it's the needed outcome.
So either the conflict can be resolved by going separate ways. Sometimes that's also what's the best solution for a situation for both or all the people and parties. And also, not every conflict can be resolved. So it can be due to the nature of the conflict, but more often it can be due to the nature of the people involved. So
Okay.
there is people who will not want to go down that path with you, who will not be willing to open up, who will not want to be on the same level as you are. There is relationships where someone always wants to feel superior and dominant of the relationship, and they will not open up and they will not step down, and the conflict will not be resolved. Either you follow their ideas and their will where things should go, or you have to leave the situation. But the conflict will not be resolved. You will still be of a different opinion. They will also not say, okay, then let's agree to going separate ways. That's part of harsh reality that we cannot, also as a mediator, I have no chance to change someone. I can set an example, I can show the benefits, I can invite. I have, of course, lots of techniques, but if someone is really not open to that at all, they won't.
Yeah, in the end, the solution, I mean, it's the conflict is finds its own solution, whether it's by finding a compromise between the parties or going separate ways. So in a way, it is resolved.
Yeah, I mean, this compromise thing, I don't know. So I wouldn't say as a mediator
Okay.
you help people to reach compromises because very often it's the view is too limited. So you have, let's say, you stand in front of a painting and
Mm-hmm.
there is an object on the painting, which is a young girl with a little lamb, let's say. And then in the
Mm-hmm.
background, there is scenery and there is birds in the sky and there's the woods and then there's probably a little rabbit somewhere. But at first, you see the girl, and the girl is in the best lighting, also portrayed, and she's beautiful, and and that catches your attention, and it's fine, and it's okay. But if you think in the sense of compromise, then it would be just watching that girl and the little lamb, but not all the other things being around in that painting. You just the first thing that catches your attention and you feel, oh, we have a disagreement on that, and this is the conflict point. But that's why I said open up to all the topics, to everything all the people involved can bring to the table. What's everything that's important? There can be big things and small things, and maybe there will be that small rabbit, other things in the picture. And then it might
Mm-hmm.
be much more than just a compromise. So that compromise has this very negative association that everybody has to lose something. And in a sense,
Yes.
yes, but maybe if you do it right, then you will look at all the things around, and then you can find a solution that's bringing more for everyone and not less for every party, you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
And this
Yeah.
is more this idea of finding consensus of the whole picture with everything painted, and not just a compromise on this main thing that caught your attention at first.
Yeah, I think it's so easy for us, kind of like human beings, when something is bothering us, we're laser focused on that
Yes.
thing, and if
Yeah.
you kind of zoom out a bit and see the entire thing, you're like, okay, so maybe, yeah, we have this thing, but like everything else around it might be, yeah, the word that comes to mind, worth saving, but that would be a very, kind of this almost destructive way of thinking about this kind of situations.
No, but it's also, I would say
Yeah.
it's more fun if you stand in front of a look, I like to stand in front of one, go to an exhibition and then stand just in front of some paintings for a long time, and all the others not really much. And then you see, if you stand there for a long time, then you see a lot of things. But it takes time. Also, that's why I like this metaphor. I mean, I can relate to that. If you don't, if you're not into arts, you're probably not relate to that. But it's same if you listen to a song or different kind of whatever music or arts it is. The more time you take exploring it, then the more it will kind of show, and it will be an enriching experience and not one that's boring for you normally. So I would say if also that's this kind of a more playful approach, not to be afraid of conflict, but to be curious, to be interested in the other people's views. Yeah.
At the same time, not creating conflictual situations to study how the other people will react.
Yeah. Please don't.
That's what we're not encouraging here. No, definitely.
No, there is also
well,
enough
maybe
conflict
Martha
already.
will have more work at that point, but
No.
great. No, this has been super interesting and really one part of a skill set. Not only as musicians but also as human beings that
Definitely, yeah.
kind of we should definitely dedicate more time to, instead of thinking, oh my god, another conflict is coming, I don't know, I should go into my bunker and hide from it. But definitely one of those skill sets that needs to be also not, well, taken seriously, yes, but at the same time not too seriously, because if you fixate on that thing, it becomes this huge unsurmountable obstacle that you think, is it even worth kind of going up there? It's like the metaphor of the mountain that you said.
Exactly.
I live in Vorarlberg. I'm surrounded by mountains. And I have never been in the mountains or on a hike because I come from a country where that's not a thing. And me looking at that mountain and I'm thinking, do I really want to go there? Is it something that I really want to dedicate my effort and time to? Yeah, I don't know. No, this has been really fascinating, Martha. Thank you for this insight into your work. Where can people find you and where can people follow your work?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram where you found me. And also, I have a website where I also put articles on my blog. So that's probably for more deeper insights. That would be consens-kultur.com. So the website is in German. But I'm working also on more international
Okay.
content. And on Instagram or Facebook. And I'm
I will
also
link all of this.
very happy if you reach out to me. You can
I
find me
will
there.
link all of this in the description of this episode so the listeners can go and check out.
Great.
And listeners, you can reach out to Martha if you have some specific situation you might be thinking about. Because it's also funny, like you see these people and you think, okay, they have normal lives, no conflicts, easygoing, and so on. And as you said, once you start speaking and opening up, everyone has a story. Everyone has
Everyone.
something that's
Yes.
happening to them,
Yeah,
either happened or still happening. So yeah, definitely.
for sure.
Well, If you are up for it, let's do a quick fire round. So, the first question: what is one thing you had to unlearn about being a musician? Also, in the sense of conflict resolution, in your case.
Being too strict.
Being too strict with yourself,
With
with the
myself.
other people, with
With
yourself.
myself, yes.
How does one unlearn that? Because as a musician, we are so held to higher standards because of the nature of our work. You know, we're tending towards perfection, and nothing less than highest quality will do for us.
I think by appreciating the worth of something being real and being of worth in the moment it's created. Um, same same for meeting someone and having a talk. It's just it's there in that moment, and it's real only then and the way it is, and that's of a bigger worth than some perfection you might never reach. You will never reach.
I like the correction where you will never reach. True,
Yeah.
true, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. So the second question, what is the best career advice you've ever received?
Be true to yourself and really find where you specialize in and only do that.
Yeah, that's a very valuable career advice, definitely. And connected to that one, third question, what is the worst career advice you've ever received?
Strive for perfection. Oh, the worst, no, the worst was find a husband.
Okay.
That was the worst.
Which, as I believe, still holds up. But that's a very weird career advice.
Yeah.
Like
And
I could definitely understand in in a still sexist society, mostly sexist
yeah,
society, that a woman needs to find a husband in order to feel secure, blah blah blah, whatever. Career advice wise,
I
I
got
mean,
that yeah, I got that when I was still very young. I was like 18 years old, so then it was even weirder probably, and it was meant in the sense that I will not be as successful to survive by myself, so I might start looking for a husband. So there's much in that. Uh,
yeah. I think there's not enough time to go into that right now.
no.
Okay. So the fourth question is, what do you see musicians still doing wrong over and over again?
I don't look so much for that, so it's hard for me to answer to that.
First thing that comes to mind,
Is
that you're like, oh my god, this happens again.
self-doubt. It's
Okay.
self-doubt. Really bad self-doubt. Cutting
That's a
off
very interesting point.
creativity
Yeah.
and really cutting off the ties you have to yourself and to why you started what you did, and yeah. So that makes me sad if I see that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which still happens really
Mm.
a lot. And the last question, what is one thing that you do to keep yourself consistent and or grounded?
I like to spend a lot of time in nature, so that keeps me grounded the most. I absolutely love being at the sea, so
Mm-hmm.
that's the most grounding experience
Mm-hmm.
I can have. And otherwise, yeah, just to be in nature and to move and to do sports. So
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, this connects very well with what you said previously about, being in the moment,
Yes,
living that real thing right now.
yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. Hmm. Well, Martha, thank you very much again for being here, for sharing your insights with us. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you are up to next with your work. And where can people also find you as a singer?
Yeah, I also got a website for that, which is then just my name, marthaharreiter.com, and there you find my next concerts and background information about me and where I've been before, what I've done already. So if you're curious for that, also videos and recordings can be found there. And then hopefully somewhere at a concert then. It's always the best,
Absolutely.
I would recommend as the best experience to get to know someone.
Because exactly, because we got to know you as an expert in this field, but you're also
Yes.
an accomplished musician, so we should never forget that. And yeah,
Yeah.
those two things. I really love these stories of musicians that combine kind of seemingly different things, but in the end, it's all about this, yeah, human connection and being human beings in the end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah. We can have a lot of aspects also to our personalities. So thank you very much for this interesting interview, for all the great questions and for your own insights. So also appreciate very much what you do. And yeah, looking forward also to your next episodes.
Thank you, Martha.